My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state. And it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. All right, this is documentation of what is ongoing psychological torture while the state of California, in concert with the people of the state, are engaged in the demonic pattern of conduct, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. The demon-possessed are monitoring, and the criminalization of this demonic behavior by a population which is simultaneously exposing what is public corruption. You are witnessing it as I document and expose literally the spiritual realm, while you can look at the demonic, the impossible presence, the manifestation of light that occurs in the dark in ways that are inexplicable with regard to the presence of the light source, that is the fake sun that is present at the same venue. And this is, again, tying to the conduct of the demons who are monitoring at what is exposed in this environment. It's not a private residence. It is speaking to a facilitating venue where criminal surveillance as opposed to constitutionally protected private activity is underway. And this is exposing demons who practice sexual violence, sexual acts as a community, as an entity together. And they also do so with impunity while ceaselessly engaging in what is psychological torture that is also sexually motivated. And what am I referencing? If you read the document entitled WSA-The People, which I upload every day because I remain subject to a ceaseless pattern of conduct, which is criminal monitoring. And that is, in other words, understanding what Paul Leon, the mayor of Ontario, what Mike Lorenz, the chief of police, what Alan D. Wapner, the president of the City of Ontario International Airport, these are government leaders who are demon-possessed. And they are also the heads of these corrupt departments who are engaged in criminally monitoring me, the demon-possessed. This is speaking to the government. That is also present while you are understanding how you are prosecuting. That this is what is inextricably tied. The pattern of conduct by the population and the pattern of conduct by the government itself. So that you are understanding what is present with regard to the entity gang stalking by the helicopters, the City of Ontario, and gang stalking in the environment, in the community, the apartment complex, the people of the state. And so this morning, this is at 1 o'clock in the morning, the entity is monitoring me in the bathroom. And based on the hostility that the demons who are engaged in criminal conduct, they are triggered as I, for example, read anything or watch any content online regarding Christ Jesus, regarding demon possession, regarding the deliverance, as Christ exercising his authority, whom he is, God in the flesh. And he's delivering people from demon possession. And as I read this context, specifically in the book of Mark, the demons are triggered. And so this is where I'm in the living room where you're looking at all methods of impossible light. So understand that the demons are monitoring right now, but I'm speaking to what I documented because I want to make sure that you're understanding while I go to the kitchen, while I go to the bathroom, while I sleep on the couch, while I walk around inside. This is where you're understanding criminal monitoring is underway, and you recognize criminal monitoring by a government in concert with the people. You are not an individual. You do not have any constitutionally protected rights. You are the state. And the elderly who are unemployed and cannot pay their rent are in the shoes of the state, and they are triggered while they monitor my documentation, speaking very frankly and unapologetically regarding their ongoing conspiracy to murder and kidnap someone, psychologically torture that person, and while I very plainly describe their criminal conduct, their sexual perverted activity, and their entity and the entity that's engaging in obsessively monitoring me with the intent to murder and kidnap me. And because you're obsessed with my genitalia, you're triggered by that documentation. So this is where you have a demon that doesn't go to sleep, over 55 years old, has no job, and is sitting gang stalking me at 1 o'clock in the morning. And as I walk to the bathroom, that's what I documented. And this is the same environment where the fake sun and where the engineer light is appearing on Tracy Banks' ceiling, moving down her bedroom wall. Outside of this window, there is no explanation for this light activity, ever. There's no explanation for it. It's going upward also, and it's also downward through what are closed blinds, under what is a covered patio. Okay, there's no sun, and there's no sunlight that's gonna ricochet off of a patio glass door. That's ever naturally happening. Remember also, not only is this isolating the specific environment with regard to prosecuting the city of Ontario, removing demons like Alan D. WAPNER, removing demons like Paul Leon, removing demons like Mike Lorenz, who are obsessively monitoring my genitalia with sex offenders whom they finance. They are financing terrorism in the state of California. This is what unemployment is going toward. This is what senior citizen Social Security is going toward, so that they can sit at home and gang stalk American citizens whom the entity is relying on the unemployed, relying on the immigrants in the state of California, relying on those who are prostituting the system, claiming that they can't go to work for one reason, but they're sitting around gang stalking me all day and all night. That's what the state is financing, and doing so in the specific environment. This is why the immigrants that are gang stalking in California, the entire state is gang stalking. Okay, this is not about racism. This is speaking to what is no respecter of persons, while Satan is using a population to engage in criminal conduct, and the multiple levels of classes of gang stalkers. And they all have conflicting interests when they're all in federal court together. And those that are not even natural born citizens, they're out of this country. They are out. In addition to that, unemployment. The policies need to be revisited. These are many of the reasons why you have a deficit with regard to the so-called economic issues in this country, while the governor and everybody under his tutelage, under his leadership, are speaking to what is a system where you can't find jobs and where there's no money here, no money there. The entity is engaged in 24-hour surveillance through the means of the city airport, 24-hour surveillance through the means of the city police, 24-hour surveillance through the means of the city at large, using all of these resources while they're funding, also paying demons to engage in criminal activity, because that's what lives in apartment number 55. That's what lives in apartments 33 through 64. Okay, while you see engineer light sitting in the this is facilitation so that the demons can more effectively gang stalk. It's an inexplicable scientific impossibility. First of all, that the sun would be at this venue like it is. It's still, not only that, not only is it still here, because you can see it through reflecting off of the patio glass door. This is a scientific impossibility. It's literally in alignment over this building at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's documented rising here at 7:18 in the morning, and I'm showing you reflecting off of it. That is not going to be the explanation for what is light on the ceiling. Now, I want to be clear. The psychopath is going to a mental asylum. This is literally a Tales from the Crypt, okay? This aged, liver spot covered, bleach blonde, demon possessed gang stalker, this violent sex offender who is obsessed with my genitalia every time I take my clothes off, every time I pull my panties down, every time I spread my legs open, because that's exactly the sexual perversion that the state of California is engaged in, and that's why you're going to hear it in such terms. Unadulterated sexual violence is what the state of California is engaged in, and they are hostile while they are documented as the sex offenders that they are. This includes Tracy Banks. This is her bedroom. This is her apartment. These are her neighbors. This is her apartment that they're flying over in helicopters in, and hovering over in commercial planes. And she's not ignorant about it. This is the same demon who is on paper seeking to establish authority and exercising Interest over me that she does not actually or legally have with this same corrupt government. She sought to profit, in other words, off of murdering me, which is why the state of California, why the city of Ontario, why this aged, sex-offending, demon-possessed gang stalker who needs Christ Jesus is monitoring me while I'm standing in the kitchen. Okay? Standing in the kitchen, every movement that I make is followed with audible activity. This is not sunlight. This is engineered light. You're looking at the covered patios outside, so it's ricocheting, appearing inside through closed blinds, and it's also appearing underneath the covered patio outside, inside of her dark bedroom. And engineered light is manifesting. This is the pattern of keeping engineered light all over the place, okay? This is where demons who are engaging in monitoring, understand that monitoring by the entity is psychological torture tactics that a state employs while they're engaging in the process of seeking to murder and kidnap someone, trying to wear them down psychologically, wear them down mentally and emotionally, to get you in a circumstance where the entity that controls the narrative, that is Tracy Banks, that would put herself on the news so that you can see her wet face and all of her tears while she puts on the act. All right, that's the only thing persuasive is the lies that come out of her face regarding the malice with which she seeks to conspire murdering and kidnapping her own daughter, her own flesh and blood, with the very state of California, with whom she is fully documented. Okay, there is no sun that's going to be the product of what is. Remember, I'm capturing this light activity at 9 and 8 o'clock in the morning. This is never going to be the product of light shooting through the peephole, light that's appearing in all manner of direction. This is where the demons are monitoring my genitalia. I want you to pay very close attention, and I'm talking to the federal government because the state of California is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. It's an exceedingly violent sex offense. And while they monitor what it is that I'm typing regarding the conduct that they are engaging in, this is where you saw the entity flying over by helicopter. All right, because I was documenting on my phone regarding the fact that the city of Ontario, the state of California, is financing domestic terrorism through the unemployment. All right, through the things such as Social Security, which this aged demon who can't go to work, right, but is engaged in very highly energetic gang stalking 24 hours a day. The demon doesn't sleep. The demon doesn't move from my position. And when I move to the kitchen, that's where the demon moves. When I move to the bathroom, that's what this Tales from the Crypt sex offender did last night, which is what I documented. The moment that I enter inside of this bathroom, this demon crawls to be directly above me, booming on the floor. And while this demon, Tracy Banks, is sitting in her bed, this is at 1 o'clock in the morning. This is documenting sexual violence, being monitored, being subject to surveillance in a private space, is sexually perverted, sexually motivated, serving no legitimate purpose, where the government has no legitimate interest. And they are financing this method of sexual violence by the elderly. Every single last one of these demons who are living under a fake sun are fully engaged in the past. They're walking around on walkers. They're walking around on canes. They even this is AVANATH Capital Management, who was going to be civilly and criminally prosecuted, gang stalking through the occupants in the apartment that the company provides to its gang stalking employees. And if they're not natural born citizens, them, like every other gang stalking immigrant in the state, they're going to be deported. Period. All right, you're looking at what is the maintenance of impossible light inside of the apartment and outside of the apartment. This is while demons are pacing, focused on me. How do you know that they're focused? Because the fake sun is focused on me. Because the engineered light, which is inexplicable on its face, is focused on me. Because the demons that are gang stalking through this demon in apartment 55 understand that this is I'm pointing by this, I mean the demon in apartment 55, she is acting on behalf of the state. The entire city of Ontario is aware of everything that I say, aware of the moment that I pull my panties down in the bathroom, aware of what it is that I'm typing about on my phone as I document, aware of what it is that I'm doing on my laptops, everything that I'm viewing. This is speaking to the unreasonable invasion of privacy by the entity that has no warrant or probable cause, while they're also engaging in what are methods of sexual violence by aged, liver spot covered, wrinkly demons who should have no interest in my genitalia, and they do so on behalf of the corrupt, demon-possessed Mike Lorenz and the Ontario police, who are stalking by hovering above the apartment in helicopter, which you know, because every time I open my front door, they're stalking a helicopter flying right over my head. Amplified while they're at a great distance, but yet it's amplified inside of this apartment. That's audible activity, relevant positioning, no matter how close or how far, in the engineered light, which is present day and night. Because when you see me walking outside, I show you my upright shadows moving all across the wall, just like you see now. This is impossible light activity. Okay, this is monitoring. This is the entity, again, on another day documenting this demon in apartment number 55. She's going to a mental asylum, and the demon-possessed that are those employed to practice psychological torture on behalf of Mike Lorenz, a domestic terrorist leader. He is done with law enforcement. He engages in things such as pedophilia, such as rape, approving of these things, relying on these things, and the sacrifice of American citizens, whom that department seeks to murder and kidnap as a corrupt department. That's why they're gang stalking me in helicopters. That's why they've engaged in a pattern of kidnapping with Tracy Banks, relying on criminal acts such as criminal defamation. This entire property, Woodside Senior Apartments, all 144 units are filled with domestic terrorists. They're all gang stalking as a property. The demons in units 33 through 64, however, are physically surrounding my person, and that's the only reason why I have isolated them, and I put that in air quotes, isolated with regard to who's going to federal prison, period. In addition to those, as I document the entity stalking by helicopter, and I get your license plate, you're going to federal prison. I get your identity, you're going to federal prison. Just like at Alvarado Gardens, just like when I'm on the freeway, and every other place where the entity is engaged in the identical pattern of conduct. All right, this is P.O.C. I want you to see this fake sun. Engineer light coming through the peephole. Engineer light in Tracy Banks' dark bedroom. There is no sunlight that's going to ricochet underneath a covered patio inside of her bedroom. That's demonic. The demons are monitoring my every move, and they like to monitor when my panties are down, when my genitalia is exposed. That's what this Tales from the Crypt demon did last night, because they don't like how I describe with truth and frankness the fact that they are perverted sex offenders. Obsessed with my genitalia and obsessed with me because they serve Satan. Those are demons that are sex offenders, and this is the fake sun over the same building at 9 o'clock in the morning. All of these elderly these senior citizens, these elderly population, they are going to be prosecuted for gang stalking. Every single last one of them. All right, and the specific environment is the evidence of it. And again, her license plate is 5WUV715. Engineer light is appearing in the shade. Recognize malice. The population is, and this demon in apartment 55 is going to a mental asylum. She's acting on behalf of the population, where a fake sun sits idle all day long. All day long. There is no light that's going to appear on your bedroom ceiling, moving across that wall on the inside. There is no position of the sun where you would ever have any light. This is designed, by the way, for shade at all times of the day. In addition to that, you're seeing it's perfectly aimed off of her patio door as I show you inside, and this is where the fake sun remains. This is where the entity is stalking me in helicopter, knowing exactly what I'm typing on my phone, knowing exactly what I'm watching, triggered by the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, triggered by the fact of being delivered from demons, triggered by the fact that they are monitoring. While you see engineer light on the grass, you see engineer light on their walls. This is the admission of the people of the state, and they're all going to federal prison. Every single last one of them. Every single last one of them. It's currently, again, 3:17 p.m. This is documentation of impunity. Oh, let's get the Ontario. Alan D. WAPNER, a domestic terrorist leader. That's amplified audible activity. Remember the engineer light flying where the fake sun is. You've seen them gang stalking me throughout the entire city. They're taking off in planes everywhere, flying adjacent to the fake sun that's stationary at this address all day long. And this is impunity by an airport that shall no longer exist. And it will be prosecuted. They are funding terrorism by keeping employees, including TSA, by the way, gang stalking at that airport. All right, every airline is going to be prosecuted for federal stalking under Title 18 as well. That's a means of crossing path and audible activity, and it enables all the rest of them because they're all monitoring as well. They're all in the path while the elements remain. That's what they're doing, by the way, in the middle of the night, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and as I document the sex offender maintaining means of amplified audible activity everywhere I move inside of this apartment, where you see engineer light on the ceiling and you see the entity crossing path in commercial airline plane, that's the evidence shutting down the Ontario International Airport. Documented years of criminal surveillance. There will never be any sunlight that's going to come underneath a covered patio and appear on the upward portion of your wall. That's where an entity is admitting that they are gang stalking. And they are admitting it to the federal government and to the world. Alan D. WAPNER is a shameful sex offender. Okay, he's a psychopath. The same exact condition, in other words, as I'm exposing to you the mental illness of the demon-possessed. And the government is, through the city of Ontario, engaging in psychological torture. Very foolish conduct that the city of Ontario just engaged in. Again, gang stalking in planes, gang stalking through police departments using helicopters, gang stalking through the fire department, gang stalking through the people of the state. They are engaged in ceaseless psychological torture, and there is a very real criminal prosecution of a federal nature while they do so openly, which is a documentation of impunity, as you just saw that, okay? They're doing so while the fake sun remains perfectly aimed on me. A scientific impossibility. Let's be clear. It's 3:19 p.m. Daylight savings time or not, the sun would never be at the same address. Perfectly aimed in alignment, creating manifestations of light in the dark. and doing so with regard to what it is that I'm documenting. The more that I document, the crazier the light activity. The more that I document, the louder the demons get. The more that I document, the more frequently those are psychological torture tactics of an obsessed sex offender who is seeking to murder you, conspiring to murder. Psychological torture is in furtherance of that conspiracy to murder and kidnap, which is why an entity is gang stalking you. While the airport uses an airline that all of them are going to be prosecuted, everybody associated with the Ontario International Airport, they're exposing themselves, and that's impunity while they gang stalk on video. It's impunity. And they do so with the population and the elderly, who are a means of financing terrorism in Ontario and in the state. All right. They're doing so with impunity, as I document. And I just want to be clear. That demon was monitoring at 1 o'clock in the morning, because that's what you saw. When I'm up, the demons are up. When I'm asleep, the demons are up, because they're monitoring in your sleep state as well. All right. The entity is following me when I go to the bathroom. And this demon, this wretched, miserable demon, okay, that needs to be focused on her skincare and her liver spots and her blood pressure, crawls over me to be over me in the bathroom and starts beating on the floor. You need to understand, you're going to break, not only it's petty, but in the natural, you're going to prosecute that, because the police department, the city of Ontario, who you just saw provide more evidence against the people and themselves, are monitoring in a private space. That's what that legally isn't referring to, and doing so with the intent to obstruct justice. This is psychological torture of a sexual nature, based on the location, based on the intent, based on the purpose, based on the mens rea. Okay, doing so while they all know that you're nude, while they all know that your genitalia is exposed, and wanting to torture you in that spot, in that state. Doing so in ways that the ordinary targeted individual cannot describe, doesn't understand, and is suffering in silence, while they are acting in furtherance of the conspiracy to murder you as a bunch of psychopathic demons, sex offenders. Okay, these are the likes that are engaging in sex trafficking, human trafficking, rape, pedophilia, molestation of children, of those that cannot protect themselves, can't speak for themselves, can't enforce their rights. They did it to a federal prosecutor, and I'm going to expose every single tactic that the demon possessed who are a public safety concern, and you will know them by the environment that surrounds you, because there's no sun that was ever in Missouri today, because it sat here all day long. There is no sunlight that is ever at that corner, even in front of this building, not adjacent to the peephole above the building, but you're looking at what is never going to be sunlight coming through a peephole. Not only that, for the duration of the day, piercing through the depths of the apartment. Look at the body of evidence. Never is that sunlight. This is speaking to Engineer Light, and the city airport continues to L&D WAPNER. These are all demons that are going to be removed, and they're exposed sex offenders. They're domestic terrorists. That goes for the fire department, the police department, the sheriff's department, the city of Ontario, all of these instrumentalities, in other words, where the entity is also engaged in federal stalking under Title 18, but they are engaged in criminal surveillance. And this is exposing public corruption rooted in the fact that they are demon possessed. It is a public safety concern, because the purpose of this organized system of crime is to murder and kidnap American citizens. And this is what the government is engaging in, and financing it through the unemployed, financing it even as you're looking at the elderly. This elderly demon is highly energetic. She can go to work, and policies are going to change, because you're not going to be able to just sit at home and claim, oh, I can't do it for this and I can't do it for that, when the state is gang stalking. Gang stalking through means such as unemployment and such as retirement. All right, receiving money from the state, who was gang stalking with them. That's what is so shameful. That's what's so pathetic. And because the demons don't like how I describe them, frankly, based on what they do, what they're doing, you're triggered while you're criminally monitoring. You're triggered while you're stalking me. You're triggered while you're spying on me. That's P.O.C. It's currently, again, 3:23 p.m. The demon is engaged in what is ongoing impunity, and it's imputed to the whole entity. Every gang stalking immigrant in the city of Ontario is going to be prosecuted, because they're gang stalking as a city. Just like when you go in on a crime, robbing a bank with your partner, it's the same. The elaborate and expensive and far-reaching crime of federal group stalking and monitoring. They will all be prosecuted based on the evidence that I continuously document. That includes the AVANATH capital management. They shall compensate for the harms precipitating from that which they engage in and from that which they're profiting from, and which under no circumstances will be tolerated. You are responsible for what's happening on your property. You're responsible for what you're profiting from as it's underway on your property, and your interest claiming that you don't know is insufficient, because an American citizen's life, safety, and well-being is at risk. And moreover, the entity is engaged in a malicious system, and AVANATH is a gang stalker in Irvine, California. This state is gang stalking. All right, it is currently 3:24 p.m. This is P.O.C. I want you to see the fake sun here. in alignment to me, where the entity is shown to be everything happening in that environment is evidence of what is gang stalking, as you understand the elements. Contrary to the malice of the entity, thinking that you could never draw any conclusions, reasonable conclusions that anyone is ever going to listen to or entertain because you're merely flying in the sky space. That is the short-sighted and intellectually inept demon-possessed who did not anticipate Christ Jesus himself exposing Satan by name. All right, it is currently 3:25 p.m. This is P.O.C. All right, psychological torture as I document the demons. They fly over and a demon is crossing path and a demon is stalking in the path with light. This is helicopter activity. All right, this is how the people of the state are gang stalking together. All right, the entity is maintaining helicopter activity in the sky space, and this is, again, aerial surveillance. This is not coincidental stalking in the path with light while the demons are monitoring what I'm publishing. She has perpendicular shadows she's monitoring. All right, this represents, again, this is my shadow upright. The entity is flying over by helicopter, anticipating that I'm going to step out. This is the same light activity you see inside of the apartment while you open the front door. These lights do not create that light activity inside of the depths of an apartment. This is the same light activity during the day while the fake sun is over. And while I am literally on my phone and I'm typing in real time, this is psychological torture that a population is engaging in. The psychological torture is to engage in more of that criminal activity, stalking you in helicopters, filling your space with the sound of the helicopters, vibrating whatever space you're in, the structure that you're in, with helicopters, while the demons who use helicopters, the city of Ontario, the demon that is Paul Leon, the population of demons who are monitoring with Paul Leon, and the city that is using helicopters to torture, to gang stalk, conspiring to murder with the people of the state, they repeat that in real time while they're monitoring on your device. It's Title 18 under Section 2261A, subsections 1 and 2. The entity that is engaging in that, that's exactly what I was typing about on my phone. This is the entity outwardly demonstrating the outright disregard and disdain for the public positions that they hold. They are exhibiting impunity, which is relevant to those who will be impeached, to those who will be removed from the position that they hold while they're gang stalking as a city. I'm going to get the people of the state that are gang stalking in this vehicle because they're going to federal prison. You're not coincidentally in the path where the entity is keeping a fake sun for the duration of the day. And this is the population that represents the entire city of Ontario coming onto the grounds of AVANATH. That is a gang stalker. The airspace, the property itself, the people of the state that are living and working here are engaged in that 24-hour surveillance. And while you see your shadows, multiple shadows, aiming light in that environment is the demonic pattern of conduct. It is analogous to what is keeping a fake sun. The entity is using the amplified train as a means of amplified audible activity. And this person's going to federal prison. Their license plate is 7GJE446. All right, they are stalking in the path with the Ontario Police Department, and this is why Paul Leon, Alan D. WAPNER, the entire city council is going to be removed, and they are being prosecuted for domestic terrorism, and so is Mike Lorenz. All right, the demons who are gang stalking as a police department, they are conspiring to murder and kidnap while they ceaselessly engage in psychological torture, with the people who practice that pattern of conduct. The pattern of conduct itself is psychological torture. You're going to pay attention to the shadows of the vehicle. This is engineered light that the vehicle is parked in, being in perfect alignment with me. This, like the fake sun, is in perfect alignment with me for the duration of the day. The people of the state come onto this property. AVANATH Capital Management is going to be civilly and criminally liable for that. I'm not ignorant about what the government is doing on its property, nor shall you be found anything other than liable for that which the government is doing through your employees, through those who you profit from while they're gang stalking as a population. That's a demon stalking in a path with a method of light activity in the parking lot. Everybody at this property is gang stalking. Everybody comes onto the property doing nothing but gang stalking. And Paul Leon and Mike Lorenz, the demons who are stalking in helicopter, who are acting with the population, that African-American elderly woman is monitoring while she walks by in what is engineered light. This is light activity. This is how demons monitor. And they all know it's what I'm typing on my phone. And psychopaths engage in more of that criminal conduct as I'm exposing the entity and speaking to what is reasonably resulting from an entity that is Paul Leon, the city council, who knows what the police department is doing, engaging in that high crime of organized crimes of seeking to psychologically torture in order to murder and kidnap. While they have illegitimate courts, they have an illegitimate city council, they have an illegitimate business practices in the city. Every business is engaged in federal stalking in Ontario, in the state, in other words. The population is engaged in, the state of California is engaged in conspiring against American citizens to murder and kidnap them while they place them in what is a system of what is gang stalking. And that third party whose license plate is documented, they're going to federal prison. All right. They're not coincidentally, but intentionally engaging what is presence in the path. That's a method of light when you have multiple shadows. Okay. Moving around on in the parking lot while the entity engages in the sound of reminiscent of gunfire. These are demons that are engaging in threatening. Everything that they're doing, they're not getting away with anything. I'm exposing all their tactics because this whole property is going to be displaced. AVANATH is not going to be participating in any low-income housing programs. They are disqualified as criminals being prosecuted for gang stalking with the state. And all of the demons that are in units 33 through 64 are going to federal prison. The entire property, it's 144 units filled with defendants who are going to be prosecuted for domestic terrorism. None of them will be eligible for low-income housing as a matter of being prosecuted for domestic terrorism. The Ontario Police is being disbanded. The City of Ontario International Airport is going to be shut down permanently. These are the ways in which the entity is financing, literally supplying terrorism for it to be underway, the machine itself underway in Ontario, as I'm showing you how that system works, and doing so through the very population, okay? You have this demon that's unemployed, sitting 24/7, a highly energetic, demon-possessed elderly citizen who does not go to sleep. She doesn't leave from position over me. She's even stalking as I go to the bathroom, but she can't go to work though and pay her rent. These are the things that have to be addressed when Paul Leon and demons of the like are removed from the positions where they're engaging in what is financing terrorism, where the demons are stalking in a helicopter. That's what they're spending millions of dollars on. And they are triggered and upset because I am exposing it, and I'm also speaking to what is necessarily going to follow. Mike Lorenz is a demon. He practices witchcraft. He's inclined to sexual violence. That's why he's gang stalking as a chief of police over a corrupt police department who have engaged in a pattern of kidnapping. That's speaking to the demon-possessed sheriff's department, very heavily documented. They're going to be disbanded, and the Ontario International Airport. The entities engaging in gang stalking with the fire department. This is all means of the municipality, in other words. And that's what I'm exposing. It is currently, again, 6:09 p.m. The Ontario International Airport is engaging in exactly what the Ontario Police Department, maintaining presence in the sky space. And that's understanding the demons that are in public positions in leadership. They are going to be removed, and they are also subject to prosecution. Okay, financing terrorism through the demon possessed who are receiving low income housing benefits. They're not receiving it anymore. You're not going to be treated differently because you're on a cane while you're gang stalking with the state, and the helicopters are flying over the same exact apartment building, communicating the same threat. There's no taking off. There's no Terminal 2 or Terminal 4. And what you hear while I'm outside is amplified inside of the apartment because they're engaging in surveillance. Delta Airlines, Southwest Airlines, Frontier Airlines. You have obviously Amazon Prime, FedEx, UPS. Those, they have commercial airline planes. All of the airlines at the Ontario International Airport are fully engaged in that criminal system. And those are just nothing other than gang stalkers that use planes as a means of surveillance. All right. Terminal 2, Terminal 4 is under no position where they're flying west and hovering over the roofs of Woodside Senior Apartments. And that's exactly what they were doing under the fake sun, okay? This is in the same exact engineered light where you saw the fake sun perfectly aimed with Tracy Banks's glass door, and engineered light ricocheting inside through her closed blinds, across the ceiling, and on her bed. This is highly demonic. And this is where the entity that's being documented for Federal Group Stalking and Monitoring engages in more of that system of psychological torture. And it equals the shutdown of the entire city, all right? No airport, no police department. You're starting over. They are infected with demon possession, engaging in the high crime of conspiring to murder and kidnap and profit, all right, off of the American citizens, where the satanic system is underway. And it is requiring the removal of demons such as Mike Lorenz, demons such as Paul Leon. Just to start with, the entity is doing so with impunity. So as I type out the documentation, so the helicopter activity begins. And that's exactly what this demon in Apartment 55 does on behalf of the state on an ongoing basis. Okay, it is, again, speaking to the strip down of the criminal conduct in the state of California. That's what the city of Ontario represents, because this is exactly what was underway when I was living in Los Angeles. The fake sun was rising and setting, and the moon at night over the same apartment where I lived. The entity keeping helicopter activity as gang stalking while I'm at work and in my private space, which was literally the facilitating venue where I lived at. And this is exactly what the city of Ontario is engaging in. This is already shown as a matter of evidence. I'm speaking to policies which will necessarily follow, where the entity is engaging in this massive public system of exposing public corruption. It is currently, again, 6:11 p.m. The entity is going to produce to the federal government the names of the demons and those at the heliport and all the business of the Ontario International Airport and the police department, because they're each and every single last one of them are going to mental asylums and federal prison. It is ongoing impunity and malice. It's 6:12 p.m. The entity is maintaining aerial surveillance in engineered light. All right, this is aerial surveillance. Helicopter activity is amplified in volume inside of the apartment, because what you hear out here, would not be able to be heard inside of the apartment, but they're targeting and they're demons. In the same way that a fake sun remains here from 9 o'clock until after 4 p.m., it's as demonic with the audible activity. That was a demon stalking in the path with headlights. That was a demon walking in engineered light monitoring, surrounding together while the demons were flying over. That's Mike Lorenz's conduct. That's Paul Leon's conduct. Financing, facilitating state surveillance, domestic terrorism, which is going to be thoroughly prosecuted. And then you are uprooting the problem, because the demons are strategically placed in positions of government and they shall not remain. And they continue to demonstrate why it is a matter of public safety that they be uprooted and permanently removed. It is currently, again, 6:13 p.m. This is P.O.C.